Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to Kamyrn Johnson. This is Text Me When You Get Home.
Things happen, even in small towns. They've got my daughter.
I just got this weird call from Sheridan that something's happened to Cameron. Do you think it's necessary for me to cut off one of her body parts?
A kidnapper is about to kill her.
She said Cameron's been kidnapped.
I'm caught in every mother's nightmare, and I have no idea how to get out of it.
It's part of it because you can't hear a voice.
They know my every step.
If you hang up on this call, your daughter dies. They got her at gunpoint.
He was pure evil. I knew I was never going to see her again. A young woman is missing tonight after leaving a bar with a stranger, then texting help to a friend.
You are watching her terrifying abduction.
A missing woman's new body was discovered in this ravine.
Miraculously, the young woman survived.
There is an alarming crisis of violence, kidnapping, and murder against innocent women. The senseless murder has struck a chord with thousands of women. This has sparked a global movement online of women sharing their own truths.
They're united under a hashtag.
Yes,
Text me when you get home.
A phrase that women are all too familiar with.
I don't know where evil comes from, but it's out there. And that day, for whatever reason, evil came for me and my family.
In July of 2016, Kamyrn Johnson is a 42-year-old corporate recruiter living in Lancaster, Texas, a quiet, historic community 20 minutes south of Dallas. Kamyrn has 3 young daughters and is only recently divorced from their father, Brian Johnson. Kamyrn and Brian's divorce has been amicable.
2015, we got divorced. Relatively uneventful for the family, so it wasn't a big deal. We always maintained a good relationship throughout and even after.
Kamyrn was living with me, and my other 2 daughters were with their dad. So that was the dynamic at the time. Lancaster is a very small town, very quaint. The people are pretty friendly.
Calling itself the shining star of Texas, Lancaster boasts a number of athletic opportunities for youth. Kamyrn and Brian's youngest daughter, 10-year-old Kamyrn, excels in gymnastics.
Kamyrn went to gymnastics in Midlothian, Texas. At the time, it was maybe about 25 minutes away from where we lived. The facility at Liberty Gymnastics was awesome. She had a really great coach that really motivated her and coached her to success.
You see the birth of somebody who's really interested in gymnastics, and she was kind of the tomboy, but not really, but just always was my right-hand man to help me paint stuff and do stuff. Where the other kids were just really kind of more reserved, she was really the energy child.
Highly competitive girl. She flourished at everything that she did. She was just really super sweet, friendly to everyone that she met.
In late July 2016, a post appears on the Liberty Gymnastics Facebook page that Kamyrn and Brian take note of.
We had received on Facebook a communication that stated that there was a van sitting in the parking lot at the gym. They weren't able to identify it. They didn't know whose van it was.
Okay.
So they said, if you know anything, please let us know. And it was a little creepy.
When I went and picked up Kamyrn, the coach mentioned, the same concern that was put out on social media.
Despite, and perhaps because of the gym's Facebook post about the mysterious van, Brian has little concern about safety protocols.
Security was never a concern at that gym. They always, kept the doors locked. During regular season, you can obviously come in and go, but there's always somebody sitting at the front desk. They know every parent.
A lot of the parents would hang around. Sometimes it would be closed gym, so we couldn't even watch, especially if they were practicing for a competition. But it was constant movement at the gym.
They were really key on who was coming into the gym because so many children were there. And with the times that we live in,
I always felt safe leaving Kamyrn at the gym because that was her thing. She was there. It was like family. You wouldn't think, anything would happen. July 28th, 2016, it was actually a really bad day for me because I had a shoulder situation where my rotator cuff was torn. I was in a sling. I was in a lot of pain that day, and I was coming from the doctor's office. Trying to drive, it was a nightmare. But I finally had made it home and was just about to just kick back because I was so tired and I was in so much pain.
Because of Sheraton's early doctor appointment, Brian's mother offers to take Kamyrn to gymnastics.
She had to be up early in the morning. It was just more convenient for my mom to just go ahead and take run up there for that morning.
As a senior recruiter, Sheraton receives numerous calls daily, so when her phone rang that morning, it was no surprise.
I had an app downloaded on my phone. It automatically recorded my calls that it didn't recognize the number. If you weren't saved in my phone, the call was automatically recording.
And that call is one Sheraton will never forget.
I looked at my cell phone. Oh, this is a candidate. So I answered the phone. I did hear a scream in the background. And then all I heard was, Mommy. What? Hello?
Initially, Sheraton is stunned and confused. Yet there is one thing she is certain of.
I have 3 daughters. It was definitely Kamyrn. I knew it was her. And then all I heard was, take her to the back. There's a person on the other end of the call saying, Sheraton Johnson.
We have your daughter in our van. We kidnapped her. This was about a kidnapping, okay?
This is about a kidnapping.
What? Who is this? I'm only gonna ask you one time. Are you interested in helping her out and saving her life?
I was really trying to process what was going on.
Yes, but I need to. Okay, pay attention. No, shut up and listen, okay?
Kept telling me to shut up and listen. A kidnapping? I was so afraid.
The voice on the other end of the line is completely unfamiliar to Sheraton, but his threats are personal and terrifying.
Listen, pay attention. Do you think it's necessary for me to cut off one of her body parts?
I almost froze of sheer terror. It's a very scary feeling to hear something like that.
Sheraton tries to keep her voice calm so she doesn't aggravate the kidnapper.
No, sir. No, sir.
She's in a van. She's been abducted. She's been taken to the back. I don't know if they had a gun to her head or a knife. Anything was possible. As a mother, I'm terrified. And I wanted to do anything to save my daughter's life.
On an average Thursday morning, Lancaster, Texas resident Sheraton Johnson receives a terrifying phone call.
We have your daughter in our van. We kidnapped her. This was about a kidnapping, okay?
As a mother, I'm terrified.
Here, pay attention. Do you think it's necessary for me to cut off one of her body parts?
I'm on the call with this strange person, and he told me, don't hang up the phone.
Rang? Or you to the police? Or somebody else? You never see your daughter again. Do you understand me? Yes. Say it. I won't hang up.
If you hang up the phone, you'll never see your daughter again.
How much money do you have? How much money can you give within 30 minutes so I can help you out and let your daughter go? I don't have money, but I can probably come up with like $5,000.
30 minutes. It is now 11:30 a.m. and Sheraton doesn't have $5,000.
I'm thinking, what do I have in my bank account? What do I have in my savings that I can go and take out? I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to really say anything, but it just came out. You know, maybe I can get you $5,000. I was just terrified. I wasn't sure if that's what he wanted. I panicked and just told him the first thing that came to my mind. But I was willing to do what I needed to do to make sure that my daughter was safe.
Knowing she can't hang up, Sheraton gets a sudden idea.
I had a landline. I picked up my landline and I called my ex-husband.
Brian is at work and in a meeting with his boss.
Sheraton called, and I'm like, well, my boss is still talking, and so I declined the call. And so she called me right back. And normally when she calls right back, something is wrong. You know, normally she would just, either send me a text message or something like that. But, so I stepped outside and I answered the phone and said, hello.
Sheraton holds the landline receiver to the speaker of her cell phone so Brian can hear the conversation.
And I just heard this man's voice, this just foreign voice. I'm like, who is this? And because we were divorced, and I thought maybe the other guy she was seeing or something like that was there. I didn't know whether, like, what is this? I didn't realize at the time that, she was taking her landline and putting it up to the phone so I could hear this other person. And I could hear her trying to say something. She was talking.
I was trying to tell him that our daughter had been kidnapped without letting this other man know that I was speaking on the phone with someone else. Somebody's got Kamyrn.
Can you speak up? I can't understand what you're saying.
Can you help me?
She said that they got Kamyrn. They got Kamyrn.
It was like gibberish to him. He didn't understand what I was saying.
Meanwhile, the caller gives Sheraton instructions on what to do next.
Listen, I want you to get in the car and drive now.
He told me to get in my car, and he said, don't lie to me because I know where you are.
She said, I gotta go. And so she hung up. She was on one of her other phones. She had a landline phone, and so she hung up. I called my mom. I said, did you take Kamyrn to gymnastics? She said, yeah.
Through a blur of confusion about who would want to hurt her daughter, only one possibility entered Sheraton's mind.
I've never crossed paths with anyone in a bad or negative way that could have done something like this to my family. The only thing that I could think of is that van that was parked in the parking lot at Liberty Gymnastics.
The caller instructs Sheraton to close her garage door. His reason seems strange to her.
Close your garage door. I don't want anyone breaking in while you're away.
this call of just agony. I was following every word that he told me to do.
Listen, this is what I want you to do, okay? Go to your bank ATM and withdraw everything you have.
I want you to drive to the nearest location where you can pull money out, and you need to get it. You have to be very respondent to whatever it is that the aggressor is saying, and he was super aggressive. I definitely was not rich. I did have a savings, but at the time, I couldn't really think of how I could get anything. We're pulling up to the bank that I actually came to withdraw money from one of my accounts. It brings back a lot of weird energy and memories. I remember just going here and being super nervous. I think I dropped the ATM card.
Sheraton is able to withdraw only $140 in cash.
I was thinking that I would truly never see her again. I tried to tell him, hey, my daughter is very kind. She's very sweet. Just don't hurt her.
Please, she's a good kid. She's a gem. Yeah, she looks like a good kid. She's smart.
Children are most often abducted by people that they know, whether it be parents or relatives that they know. Stranger abduction is actually more rare than we think, but they do happen throughout the country, and we do see them.
With only 10 minutes left until the threatened deadline, the caller's instructions begin to get specific to Sheraton's surroundings, prompting her to wonder if she is being followed.
They knew where I was. They told me where to go. These were places that I wasn't even familiar with. Could he possibly been following me and they knew my every step? He says, you need to go to this particular check cashing store. I had no idea what he was talking about.
Keep going. You're going to the shoulder.
He was giving me instructions to drive to another town to a specific check cashing store.
There's a check cashing place on your right. Go there.
As Sheraton pulls up to the store, there is a brief moment when she is filled with hope.
Immediately, I wanted to tell somebody, hey, can you help me? This person on the phone has my daughter.
Until a frightening realization hits her like a bolt of lightning.
They were all in on it.
Well,
July 28th, 2016. The caller claiming to have kidnapped Sheraton Johnson's 10-year-old daughter Kamyrn is threatening to kill the child unless Sheraton pays an unspecified ransom. The caller directs her to a check cashing store in DeSoto, Texas, and warns her not to hang up or call the police.
I get to the check cashing place. I walk in. Everybody was staring at me and looking. So they're in on it. Those were my thoughts. I gave them all the specifics where the money was supposed to go. And once I did that, of course I didn't say anything because they're all in on it. It's been 6 years now since I actually took this drive going to the check cashing place, and it's almost haunting. It's really a bad feeling, actually. People can be so cruel and do these really devious things to each other. It makes it seem like there's no hope in the world. So I get back to my car and he says, you gotta get more money.
You gotta get more money. Do you have any family you can go to?
Is there a relative? Is there someone that you can call to help your daughter out? Because you need to get more money. The only person I could think of was my ex-mother-in-law. So as I'm driving to my ex-mother-in-law's house, I'm actually driving crazy. I'm swerving in the road. If I can get a police officer to pull me over, I just really needed help. That was my goal. As crazy as I was driving, I was never pulled over. I even rolled down the window to try to flag someone.
All attempts at safely attracting attention from strangers are unsuccessful. By this time, Sheraton's 30 minutes to comply with the caller's demands has expired. But since he makes no mention of it, neither does she. Meanwhile, Brian's concerned calls to Sheraton go to voicemail, as she can't hang up or switch over to take his call, so he tries texting.
My phone was receiving text messages.
Sheraton's shoulder injury and the fact that her arm is in a sling make it difficult to drive. Compound this with an attempt to surreptitiously correspond with Brian via text while driving, and the task becomes nearly impossible.
She said, Kamyrn's been kidnapped. The text was probably the scariest part of it because you can't hear a voice. You're thinking, is this person talking? I think that was the scariest because you don't know what you're about to walk into. How am I going to handle this?
Brian, for the moment, elects not to call 911.
I didn't jump to the 911. I wanted to verify everything before I just jumped to the conclusion that, before we call SWAT and all that kind of stuff, let me see what's really going on because nothing's making sense.
Instead, he races to the gymnasium to see what's going on for himself.
I just got to drop what I was doing and I'm driving pretty fast. Probably doing over 100 at this point. I do remember that.
I get to my ex-mother-in-law's house, and he wanted to, of course, listen and make sure that I didn't do or say anything because he knew exactly where I was.
If you hang up on this call, your daughter dies. I won't hang up.
I asked my ex-mother-in-law, I was like, hey, do you have any money that I can borrow? I really need it. Something's going on. This is a really crazy time right now. Can you give me whatever you have on me? And she says, no, I can't. What's wrong? And she says, Sheraton, you just probably need to calm down. I felt like she knew something, and I gestured to her, someone's got Kamyrn. But I didn't want this person on the line to hear me. I didn't want to make the wrong move or a mistake or anything because they could have pulled the trigger and my daughter was gone.
Sheraton's mother-in-law can tell something is wrong, but she is unable to understand Sheraton's frantic gestures.
I just couldn't reach her for some reason. She was right there. Maybe she didn't get it. Maybe she didn't understand the severity of it. So I got back in the car and I drove off. When you're put on the spot, again, logical thinking goes out the window. I actually blame myself for all of this happening because it's something that I thought that I should have known, or I could have protected her better, or maybe I should have taken her to gymnastics. As far as anger, yeah, I was angry at the situation and I was also angry at myself. As the conversation went on, I really wanted to call 911, call someone, even let someone listen in on the conversation, but I couldn't. He was hanging on every single word that I said, and he even wanted to hear everything that was in the background. So I made sure that I did not hang up that phone, that I didn't put it on mute by accident. I wanted him to know that he had my full attention.
10-year-old Kamyrn has presumably been held captive for more than an hour now, and Sheraton can't help but let her mind imagine the worst.
There were all types of thoughts that were going through my head. Even if he didn't kill her, that she was sexually assaulted or something like that.
It is here where she begins to employ a tactic designed to elicit empathy from her tormentor.
He's a heartless criminal, but I wanted to pull at his heartstrings.
What is your name? I'm Jose Luis Cortez, also known as Remorse.
Having surprisingly revealed a name, the caller also offers what sounds like remorse.
I was an innocent person, but I was young.
However, the caller also reveals the terror of what he seems to be remorseful for.
I want to stop all that innocent blood. Stop all that innocent killing.
Oh my God.
Sheraton Johnson is communicating with a kidnapper who is holding her 10-year-old daughter Kamyrn for ransom. She has been held hostage on this call for more than an hour. The caller wants more money, and Sheraton is running out of options.
You gotta get more money.
Anytime a child is a victim of a crime, the FBI is going to pour every resource we have into that. Whether it be a child who's been abducted, a child who's the victim of some sort of sexual abuse, we spend, I would say, an exorbitant amount of resources ensuring that no crime that a child has been a victim of goes unanswered.
But in this case, no law enforcement authorities have yet been advised of Kamyrn Johnson's abduction. Sheraton has been desperately trying to explain the situation to Kamyrn's father, Brian, and the message has finally gotten through, or so she thinks.
I received a text message, and I saw that it was Brian. I'm still on the line with this guy. I'm not hanging up for anything. But I checked the text message, and it said, "Do you remember the place where we used to live, our first home?" And I'm thinking in my head, why is Brian asking me this? This is so dumb, and it's so random. I'm in a situation here. Why are you asking me this? And I replied to him, yes. Why? I want you to go there right now. And I text back, why? He said, just do it. Go now. So, not having another place to go, I followed his instructions.
Compounding Sheraton's problems is the fact that her cell phone battery is dying. Her one lifeline to her daughter is in danger of being severed.
I usually keep a car charger in the car, but for some reason, it wasn't there. I went to our first home. I get there, and the place has like a foreclosed sign on it. I guess whoever had lived there before, they foreclosed on the home, and it had, no trespassing, that kind of thing. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they got Brian too. They got him, and he's in there. And I'm still on the phone with the guy.
At the very height of Sheraton's confusion and panic, the one thing she's been trying to avoid all along happens.
Suddenly, the call drops. My heart sank, and I knew I was never going to see her again. Because he told me, do not hang up this phone. My phone rang again, and it's him. Why did you hang up? I said, I didn't hang up. My call dropped. Service is bad. I'm sorry.
I know where you are.
Sheraton instantly suspects the caller is telling the truth.
In my rearview mirror, I see a car racing down the street. He pulls up, and it was Brian.
Having been unable to reach Sheraton via phone call and not knowing if she herself is in danger, Brian had a very specific reason for leading her to the location of their first home.
I can't call her. I try to call her. I think it just rings and rings, but I know she's on the phone and with this person. And then again, I don't know if the person's in the car. I don't know what the dynamics of her situation is. And so I text her. I said, meet me at the first house we purchased. And I knew I could say that without a lot of instructions. You know, if I said meet at a shopping center, I'm like, where? You know, where? A parking lot? You know, it was point blank, meet me here. So I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do? I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to check and see if there's somebody in the car. If somebody's in the car, how am I going to handle this? What am I going to do? I'm like, okay, you know what? I may have to switch spots with her. They got her at gunpoint. Take me. This is the kids. This is her mom. So I drove over there and I see her and I kind of look and I see no one's in the car. So I fling the door open and she's crying.
Sheraton Johnson has been on a terrifying 1 hour, 45-minute odyssey to save the life of her kidnapped 10-year-old daughter, Kamyrn. The child's father, Brian, has finally caught up with his ex-wife with some information.
Brian jumps out of his car. He says, Sheraton, hang up the phone.
I fling the door open and she's crying. I don't know what to do. I said, get off the phone.
He says, Sheraton, it's not real. Kamyrn is safe. I'm like, no, she's been kidnapped. She's not safe. He goes, she's safe. She's at the gym.
My name is Kamyrn Johnson. On July 28th, 2016, I was never abducted. It was an evil hoax played on my mother.
Sheraton and Brian have become victims of a federal crime known as virtual kidnapping.
I love my mom, and the fact that she had to go through that is horrible, and I feel really sorry.
Things are not always what they seem. In most cases, a virtual kidnapping involves just a simple phone call to a victim. It seems like somebody has been taken against their will and being held as a hostage, when in fact, it's an extortion scheme. It's an extremely emotional event. It's difficult for people to deal with.
The term virtual kidnapping, this was a phenomenon that I'd never heard of before.
Prior to 2016, I had no idea what a virtual kidnapping was.
When you get a call and there's a child's voice on the phone and they're calling you mommy, I believed in my heart that this was my daughter.
If my wife is being taken and I hear a female, my brain would automatically believe that I'm hearing my wife.
For someone who has to deal with that by themselves, that's got to be really tragic because you're trying to figure out if they really do have your kid and you don't have a second party to go do any verification. So you're kind of at the mercy of that person.
During that time, things can be very confusing. You just don't know what you would do. You don't know how you will respond. That was them giving me proof of life that she was actually there with the kidnapper.
Some would say, well, why did she go to the ATM? Why did she go get the money? Well, you don't know. You don't know what's real. You don't know if it's fake. And that's not something you want to play with.
Earlier, Brian had raced to the gymnasium where Kamyrn had supposedly been abducted as soon as he got Sheraton's cryptic text.
I'm driving, and so I exit the freeway and I look over and the parking lot is empty. I'm like, this is weird. I'm expecting to see cops and detectives and helicopters and all that kind of stuff going on, and it's empty. So I pull in and I'm kind of look around, and I get out the car and I knock on the door of the gym because they keep the doors locked. And so I knocked on the door. The coach finally came to the door, and she says, "What's up?" And I says, "Kamyrn here." She said, "Yeah." You want to go get her? I said, "No, leave her here. I was just checking." She said, "Everything okay?" I said, I'll talk to you later. Everything's fine. Just let her keep going." We went back to her place, and that's when we called the police.
Lancaster police take a full report, including the recorded conversation between Sheraton and the virtual kidnapper. An officer tells them he has seen this before.
He said, "Yeah, we've had a couple of these past couple of days." He told us a story of another lady who had almost the exact same, and didn't go as far as ours did. I think because the kid might have been around, they didn't do their homework there, but yeah.
Who could have perpetrated such an intricate and well-researched hoax? And will he or they be brought to justice?
You have to get this guy.
What you did to my family was wrong, and I feel like you should be in jail for life for this.
Sheraton, I think, needed the visual, and you can see the emotion on Sheraton's face when she saw Kamyrn.
When I saw Kamyrn, I hugged her. I told her that I love her. And I said, "You're here. You're here. You're actually here."
A few tears were shed, Yeah.
While Sheraton is grateful for a positive outcome, finding the culprits and bringing them to justice is difficult in virtual crimes. Local news picks up the story in prime time.
Do you think it's necessary for me to cut off one of her body parts?
That was so scary, and I was like, no, sir.
The level of detail the caller had suggests both geographical research and a scouring of the Johnsons' social media.
A person who is perpetrating a virtual kidnapping is receiving personal information online. They're getting it from social media posts. They're receiving information on location. They have the ability to obtain a lot of personal information that can be used to convince an extortion victim that they, in fact, have their loved one.
Evidently, these people were, professional scammers or something. He found out everything that he needed to know on my social media. I had things there that were posted about my kids, their accomplishments, my accomplishments, us as a family. These were details that strangers can take and just run with it.
But the question still remains, who are the virtual kidnappers? According to the FBI, the scam has its origins in an unexpected place. Between 2013 and 2015, FBI investigators tracked a number of virtual kidnapping calls from within Mexican prisons.
The largest majority of virtual kidnappings that we see are traced from Mexico.
As the FBI's website describes the scam, prisoners will bribe guards to acquire cell phones to research exact locations and carry out the crimes. The ransom money recovered is used to buy favors in prison or buy an inmate's way out of captivity.
It makes it extremely difficult for us to find and prosecute individuals who are involved in crimes against Americans here while they are outside of the country.
As far as this man terrorizing people and ruining lives, playing hooks, all of these things, there was no justice served at this point, which is really sad.
The persons who committed this virtual kidnapping have yet to be brought to justice. The FBI is educating the public about strategies and safeguards to get one step ahead of the virtual kidnapping scammers.
Virtual kidnapping is such a significant problem in the United States that the FBI has a webpage specifically to keep the public educated. That way we can attempt to avoid some of these that are happening in the United States. There are a lot of tips that we can share on how to avoid becoming a victim of a virtual kidnapping. One of the most important ways is to watch your social media posts. If you do receive a phone call that appears to be a real kidnapping, take your time to evaluate whether or not it sounds like it's real. call the loved one who's been supposedly kidnapped. If you cannot call the loved one, it's important that you contact the authorities right away. We can give you indicators that tell you that your loved one may have not been kidnapped.
Even now, Sheraton experiences PTSD symptoms from her 1 hour and 45 minutes of hell in 2016.
This event was, first of all, terrifying. I wouldn't want anybody else to go through this. But to this day, it's still traumatizing.
The fact that that person's still out there and doing this to other families is horrible. You know, that just deep, really deep, dark part of your mind just thinks about, like, what if you were kidnapped?
The check cashing store and the van spotted at Liberty Gymnastics likely played no role in the virtual kidnapping. It was simply an odd coincidence. To this day, Sheraton and Brian maintain high praise for Liberty, its employees, and its safety. Today, Kamyrn is an active and well-balanced 16-year-old with a bright future.
Me and my mom, I'm like a mini her, as people like to say. Talk like her, look like her, and sometimes even my dad said I sound just like my mother.
Kamyrn is a wonderful child, and she's alive and well.
18-year-old Kelsey Smith went on a run to Target, then vanished without a trace.
There's no concrete evidence that a crime's been